From the CBS Bay Area studios, this is KPIX 5 News.
Well, welcome back. It is just about 6:30. Good morning. Thanks for joining us again. I'm Devin Fehely.
And I'm Melissa Kane. And we've got a live look at the San Mateo-Hayward Bridge for you. It is now clear after an accident shut down the westbound lanes last night. The crash happened just before 9 p.m., blocking all westbound lanes at the high-rise. And that prompted a SIG alert. Drivers were then stuck behind the crash for more than an hour and a half. The California Highway Patrol says there were some injuries, although again, all lanes on the San Mateo-Hayward Bridge are back open. Earlier yesterday evening on the 680, there was a fatal motorcycle crash on the Sunol grade near Fremont. This happened just south of Calaveras Road. The motorcyclist reportedly collided with a work truck in the northbound lanes. That crash backed up traffic and the delays lasted several hours.
California's Employment Development Department says employers in the Bay Area added nearly 13,000 jobs last month. That brings the total number of jobs in the region to more than 4 million. Santa Clara County led the way, adding 3,800 positions. San Mateo and San Francisco counties added about 3,500 jobs. Alameda and Contra Costa counties combined for 3,200 new jobs. Yesterday, demonstrations in 10 major U.S. cities rallied in support of better pay, specifically at McDonald's restaurants. Here's a look at one of those Fight for 15 events at the Plant Shopping Center in San Jose. Organizers are calling for the fast food giant to increase its pay to its lowest paid workers to $15 an hour. The city of San Jose already has a $15 minimum wage, but that's not the case in many other American cities.
$15 means that they can put food on the table for their children, that they can afford to buy clothes for their children, and that they can pay medical expenses for their children.
In Washington, the Democratic-controlled House has approved legislation to raise the national minimum wage to $15 an hour, but it's not expected to pass the Republican-controlled Senate. The national minimum wage is currently $7.25.
A plan to allow the homeless to park RVs near the Balboa Park BART station in San Francisco will get its first public airing today. A community meeting will be held at Balboa Park High School. San Francisco leaders say it would be a pilot program and that it would include 24-hour security, bathrooms, and social services. People who would want to park there would have to register their vehicles and could only be on site for 90 days.
It was 50 years ago today that the Eagle landed and the Apollo 11 astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin took their first steps on the surface of the moon. To recognize that historic event, the U.S. Postal Service is issuing special forever stamps. One of the iconic image of Aldrin standing on the moon's surface, the photo taken by Armstrong. The other is a 2010 image of the moon with a dot showing where the lunar module touched down in the Sea of Tranquility. Apollo 11 was the first manned spacecraft to land on the moon, and the 1969 event remains one of the most iconic in modern U.S. history.
Yeah, reporter Omar Jimenez is at Cape Canaveral, Florida, as the nation celebrates this groundbreaking mission a half-century later.
July 20th, 1969, the Apollo 11 mission successfully put the first man on the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Neil Armstrong's historic steps, taken 6 hours after the initial lunar landing, officially ended the space race.
Apollo 11 was about setting an ambitious goal before the world.
An estimated 650 million people worldwide tuned in to the spacewalk, and a lot of those people still remember exactly what they were doing when those iconic steps were taken.
Nobody could believe that it was even happening. You look up at the moon, it seems so far away.
A host of events were planned for the week leading up to the mission's 50-year commemoration. Starting July 16th, the anniversary of the Apollo 11 launch, an image of the Saturn V rocket was projected onto the east face of the Washington Monument. Neil Armstrong's spacesuit was unveiled at the National Air and Space Museum. President Trump honored the astronauts from the historic mission at the White House Friday.
But space to me is very important.
And the U.S. Postal Service issued 2 commemorative forever stamps.
It honors the accomplishments of Apollo 11, but also they'll be around forever and can be used forever.
50 years later, the nation still celebrating the pride, the excitement, and the wonder of that historic day. And one of the biggest legacies it has left behind is achieving what many thought was impossible at the time, which begs the question, what is next? Well, NASA says it starts with going back to the moon. They hope to do so by 2024 to bring the first woman and the next man to the surface of the moon. It is a mission they hope to use as a conceptual launching pad to the next big frontier, that one being Mars. Reporting from Cape Canaveral, Florida, I'm Omar Jimenez.
We have a special section on our website dedicated to the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 mission. You can go to kpix.com/Apollo. Sacramento judge has rejected a lawsuit aimed at stopping a homeless navigation center from being built in San Francisco. The proposed facility on the Embarcadero would provide 200 beds and services for homeless people. Now, many people living nearby oppose that center. They filed a lawsuit in Sacramento because they don't believe that San Francisco would be a, quote, neutral venue. But the judge sent the lawsuit back to the city. Officials hope to have the center open by this winter.
Uber and Lyft drivers are demanding better working conditions, and yesterday they delivered a letter to Uber headquarters in San Francisco. The drivers want better wages and more employee protections, including health care benefits. The drivers' push is part of a larger debate in California over who should be classified as an independent contractor versus employee. A bill on that issue is now working its way through the state legislature.
San Francisco's embattled director of transportation is heading across the bay to Oakland. Ed Reiskin announced his resignation in April following a 10-hour subway meltdown and complaints that the Muni transit system is often slow to deal with problems. He's leaving the SFMTA in mid-August, and just 12 days later he'll become Oakland's assistant city administrator. Reiskin has worked in Oakland before as the assistant to the city manager. Tensions with Iran soaring this morning after U.S. officials say Iran sees 2 British oil tankers in targeted operations. British officials say that Iran's Revolutionary Guard boarded both ships yesterday in the Strait of Hormuz, ordering them into Iranian waters. Iran has already released one of the tankers from their custody. This comes just a day after Central Command said the military downed an Iranian drone, claiming it came too close to an American Navy ship.
This only goes to show what I'm saying about Iran. Trouble, nothing but trouble.
We hope for their sake they don't do anything foolish. If they do, they will pay a price like nobody's ever paid a price.
Iran fired back, saying the White House is lying about destroying their drone. They say this footage they've released disproves his claim and that the drone was intact and operational after President Trump says it was destroyed.
The Greek capital of Athens is recovering this morning after a moderate earthquake rocked the country. It sparked power outages and trapped people in elevators. Yesterday, shaking knocked things off of counters and sent residents running into the streets. Athens officials say the preliminary magnitude was 5.1, while the U.S. Geological Survey says it was a 5.3. Authorities are still inspecting areas close to the epicenter, and there are reports that some buildings collapsed in western Athens. So far, though, no reports of any deaths or serious injuries.
We've kind of had it made lately in the weather, if you think about it. When's the last time you even thought about the weather?
It's been lovely.
You haven't had to.
Not really.
The South Bay's been hot.
Well, but it's kind of typical, right? It hasn't been hotter than what would be normal for this time of year. And that's the whole theme for this weekend. Look at the numbers for inland locations there on the top of the 7-day. Mid-80s today. We'll be in the upper 80s tomorrow. The warm-up begins by the middle of next week.
It's time for us to call it a morning. Thank you for watching KPIX News This Morning.